Social Factor.
Welcome everyone to the Social Factor.
Hello everyone.
Got David and Josh here. And it's obviously Sunday night. I was just gonna say it's Sunday. Well, then it's like, well, look, duh, you guys do this on Sunday nights.
Yeah, no kidding. It's the only time we ever do it.
Yeah.
On the holy day.
Yeah, on the holy day. On Palm Sunday. Om.
All right.
On Palm Sunday.
Correct.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And this week we are back with an all-new topic. We're going to talk about mental disorders this week on today's episode. It's going to be about mental disorders. We might have to
and mental illness.
Yeah, and I mean, depending on how this episode goes, we might have to do, a part 2. I don't know,
We'll see.
It's kind of a huge subject, because literally nothing these days is considered normal. Literally, there's even a disorder for people that are considered normal, probably.
Well, if the mental illness starts taking a lot more people, let's just say that, the next generation has a lot more people dealing with disorders and illnesses, the normal might become a minority.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
But anyway, we do have a Facebook page. You can go like us on Facebook.com/The Social Factor Podcast. We have a website in development. It is not up and running yet. We've been working on it, getting it up and running. Some features that you're going to see on there, and I'll just pull it up right now so I can go along. David actually hasn't seen this yet. I've been working on it. So, on the front page, you'll see a slideshow that basically just talks about, or basically just has like a headline of recent,
one of our shows.
Yeah, recent episodes we've done, facts from recent episodes we've done, and then you'll get our, news feed from our Facebook page, so you don't actually have to. I mean, I shouldn't say that because I was gonna say you don't actually have to like us on Facebook, but I shouldn't say that because we want you to like us on Facebook.
Yes, please like us.
Yes, and then below that will just be the next the upcoming episodes for like the next 3 weeks.
Voila.
And we got an about section. We have the listen live area where you'll be able to listen to the live show as well as comment on the show, chat with us, and we're also going to introduce a separate live window for video stuff, and not talking that we're gonna start doing shows where you can see us. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking where, let's say we're talking like how we when we did when we were talking about like Dracula, and we were discussing Elizabeth Bathory, and then we pulled her picture up. We'll be able to have a live feed going on our website where we'll push that picture live onto our website so people can see it, and then when we're done talking about it, we'll take it back down from that live feed.
Okay, so you're talking about like a video image, or anything that relates to the subject that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and then there'll be the episode section where you'll be able to listen to all of our episodes so far that we've done, and our schedule, which will tell you about upcoming all of the upcoming episodes that are currently planned. It'll tell you the guests that we're going to have, what the episode's going to be about, all that stuff, and then just a contact us page if you need to contact the show for any reason.
Whether you have a complaint, whether you think we're great, or any comment you may have, maybe to add to the subject.
Exactly, and also season. And originally we talked about doing like season 1 until the end of the year.
Yeah.
However, that's not going to be the case. Season 2 is going to happen this year as well. What we'll do, likely, is we'll probably do up to about 24 episodes in season 1, So about another 14 episodes or so in this season, 14 or 13 episodes in this season, and then we will close out. Then we'll close out season 1, and then we'll take like a couple weeks off, or maybe like a month or two,
yep.
And then get into planning season 2, and then we'll air season 2. Right now, I don't have this planned out yet. I thought that we would have the season 1 premiere possibly somewhere around the end of May, and then take off for the summer, and then at the end of summer come back with season 2, and then at the Christmas season we'll do this season finale for season 2. But anyway, I shouldn't really be talking about this because we don't really have any of this.
Yeah, we don't truly have a concrete plan.
Exactly.
And things may change. They may vary. It also depends on the subjects we're discussing.
Exactly, because we have literally a topic list and a subject list that literally will practically cover season 2 at this point.
Yeah. I think we're pretty good with ideas.
Oh yeah.
There are a few things I thought about that we should add, but we'll discuss that when we're not on air.
Yeah, but I just thought that I would let you guys know that the season 1 is going to have about 24 episodes. So we're roughly almost coming up on halfway through the season.
Yep. One more episode and then we're halfway.
Yeah.
Now, is this a good time to maybe focus on the actual episode that we're doing?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Now, for many people, not only in the United States but around the world, many individuals are suffering from one disorder or one illness, usually dealing with the cognitive, which means the brain. Okay, and that's what we're going to talk about today: mental illness and mental disorders. Basically, and it's okay if we mention who we are, as far as beyond just David and Josh, or Josh and David, however you want to say it. Both of us do have our own cognitive issues, as you may want to say. And I will tell you straight up, I suffer from bipolar, and I also have PTSD, which I got in the military. And I suffer from anxiety. Not as severe as my buddy Josh, who, we all have reasons why we are where we are today. And we also have experienced bigotry and discrimination at some point in our personal lives because of our issues. Josh, why don't you tell the world what you believe you have and what you've been diagnosed with?
Well, my whole life I've worried a lot about stuff, and it really affected my everyday life, with I guess, we'll just say with everyday life. And in 2013, I decided, you know what? I'm tired of feeling like this every day. I want to see if there's something that the doctor can prescribe me to make me feel better. So I scheduled a doctor's appointment, and I sat down with the doctor and we talked for a while. And it was then I think it was August of 2013, so 5 years ago. 4.5 actually. That he diagnosed me with. I thought it was separation anxiety at first, but he diagnosed it as social anxiety. So I have lived with social anxiety for much of my life, and yes, I'm on medication for it. When I'm on that medication, I'm more out there in the world. When I'm not on the medication.
You mean you're more relaxed with the world?
Yeah.
Because when you say out there, it's like you're mentally out there.
Yeah. And when I'm not on the medication, my mind basically makes me feel like I just want to crawl up into a corner and sleep or something.
Totally understandable. I like how you presented your situation, to the world right now, because you actually gave the human side of it. You gave how you feel, how you react to what's out there and why it makes you feel the way it is, where I just gave the definition of my issues. And I like that. That was really, really good. Going back to me, if you were to analyze exactly my issues, there would be a lot of anger involved. I have some issues with anger, anxiety being that at certain points I feel overwhelmed and very much ready for fight or flight, which kind of goes right into my PTSD. Now, depression is a part of bipolar, and I of course, Josh can attest to this. Not very long ago, I ended up having a manic episode, and I will tell you, anyone that's ever gone through that, my heart goes out to you. It's not something that anyone should ever shun or criticize. When people go through these anxiety attacks or manic episodes or even the depressive episodes of bipolar or any particular mental illness that comes with a cost, anyone that would ever think about judging an individual that's suffering in that manner should be ashamed of themselves. And that's all I'm going to say on that subject, on that aspect of it. And I know I've been criticized by colleagues, by managers, employers, even family members who just didn't understand or didn't care to understand my situation. I'm sure you've had that yourself.
Yeah. And see, that's one of the things with mental disorders is that no one in the world knows exactly what you're going through. So when it comes right down to it, I mean, and I've talked to you about this.
Yes.
Like, I personally do not even like going to psychiatrists or therapists because it's just because with the psychologist, it's just that the scientists basically do studies on the human brain, and basically they have that information put into textbooks and whatever, and then they provide that to people who are going to school for it to help them better understand stuff. But the thing is that when you are studying a mental disorder, you can see the differences in brains and stuff like that. But when it comes right down to it, no one in this world will ever feel exactly what you're feeling yourself. No one will ever, I mean, I hate to say it, but no one will actually completely understand what you're feeling unless they actually have a mental disorder.
It's almost like Alcoholics Anonymous. Only alcoholics can help another alcoholic, is what you're saying.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, because someone who doesn't have anxiety doesn't know what you're going through, or somebody that doesn't have a mental disorder is suck it up and just suck it up, be an adult, be a man, Yep. It's it doesn't work like that.
No, and that's where empathy plays a big role. I've been in the system for over 24 years. From the time I got out of the service, I went right to therapy because I knew something was not right with me anymore. And I've been through so much therapy, and yet I still ended up in the hospital several times. And like you, I criticize the type of structure that's out there sometimes because, number one, does a person with mental illness or mental disorder, are they truly willing to change who they are? Most of the time, no.
They want to, but they can't. That's
Correct.
The thing.
Correct. Now, there are a lot of cognitive therapies out there that are really good. I mean, I was in 2 different programs with the VA, where I was, remember, I was gone for 7 weeks, in Kentucky at Fort Thomas, which is a PTSD program for the Veterans Affairs. And while I was there, it was freaking awesome. I felt different. I felt strong again. I had a support group that was just there, okay? But the moment I left, I was out of that comfort zone. I was out of that protection and had to go back to the world that often didn't get me. Okay?
Yeah.
And so it's up to the individual to take what they learned and apply it, but most of the time, a lot of people, they relapse, okay? Because they don't have the system, either from the support of their parents, their children, their spouse, or society itself, Mm-hmm. A lot of people become incapable of even conducting themselves properly.
Yeah, and this actually, something about the book, the book that I wrote, The Power of Hope. For those who don't know, I wrote a book, the difficulties that I've had to face in my childhood and all that stuff. ultimately that, dealing with my anxiety disorder and just other stuff. And I learned something from that book, and my eye itches.
Thanks for sharing.
No, it just started randomly itching. So in the book, I tried to basically convince someone that I tried to basically after I wrote it, I tried to convince myself, hey, you're an awesome person. You do not need medicine to live with this. So I tried to go off my meds for a couple months. Didn't work after I did that, I went back on them and I felt much better. And then basically from that experience, I learned that you don't have to be ashamed, to be on meds or whatever. Like, you don't have to say, hey, you don't have to try to encourage someone to be like, hey, you don't have to be on this meds for the rest of your life. I mean, it's completely okay to be on prescription medications and stuff like that. I mean,
correct.
It makes you feel better, and it certainly makes me feel better.
Exactly. And the thing is that often, like you said, a lot of people have these biases against medication. Now, I'll be honest with you, I have an issue with the pharmaceutical industry. It's a very powerful industry.
Yeah.
They make a lot of money, and they actually create disorders. That is a fact. However, for the people that actually need medicines, okay, because they're lacking certain chemicals in their brain, and that's what most mental illness is. It's like a deficit or a deficiency in certain chemicals that are necessary to feel normal or feel well, okay? Those people do need medicines, and some of those people suffer tremendously and often hurt people around them.
Exactly. There's nothing bad about taking prescription medications for something. Now, taking prescription medications that haven't actually been prescribed to you, that's
that's actually illegal.
That's a completely different story.
Yeah, that would be abuse. At that point.
That would be that would be abuse at that point. But yes, my bottom line is there's nothing wrong with taking prescription medications that have actually been prescribed to you, because you need them, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and it's funny. You saying that reminds me of my own personal things that I experienced with family members.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you remember my grandfather was a Holocaust survivor.
Mm-hmm.
He was a real tough man,
mm-hmm.
and he was watching me taking my medicine one day, and he looked at me and says, "Why are you taking this medicine? Look what I went through. I never needed medicine." And I looked at him and said, "Opa, how much vodka have you drank in the last 60 years?" And he was astonished that I even asked him that. And I said, "This is my vodka, okay? And you were doing that to cope with your horrible event, your experience that you went through."
Now, alcohol, that's not a drug. That's a chemical, isn't it?
No, it's a drug.
It is a drug?
Alcohol is a drug.
Okay,
just like coffee is.
The alcohol part, it's not good to be obvious.
Listen, consumption of alcohol
I don't know where
in
I was going
moderate
with that
terms
because
it's a social thing.
Yeah,
okay.
It's going against what I literally just said. I was going somewhere with that, and then all of a sudden I just stopped myself. Like, wow, I'm going against literally what I just said.
Would this be a blooper moment?
Yeah.
Okay, we got a blooper on here.
Because I just said now when you're addicted to alcohol, there's a little bit of an issue. And then I'm like, wait, I'm just going against what I just said because I'm not addicted to alcohol. I don't drink alcohol. I've never been addicted to alcohol, and I will never understand how a person can be addicted to alcohol just because I don't have alcohol addiction. And like I said, that goes against what I literally just said. So
correct.
That.
Yeah. I mean, remember, alcohol dependency is under the disorders. Okay?
Yeah, exactly. So when it comes to someone having a disorder, obviously it's human nature to judge them. That's basically never going to go away. However, know that there's nothing that they can do about this. They would gladly drop this disorder if they could, but they can't.
Well, it's part of their makeup at that point. When you start, often these mental disorders start right from childhood on. Okay,
mm-hmm.
and they may not be as identifiable at when they were young, but they start growing as they go through puberty, and then in adulthood it's
You
like
just said
full
you just said puberty.
puberty, which is
Puberty.
whatever. Puberty. And of course, the hormones change and stuff, and even the brain changes at that point. And then into adulthood, often people with mental disorders or behavioral disorders or addictions end up like going full blown. Okay, so often it follows you most of your life, and it also is based on your environment. It's based on the family structure. I mean, there's so many different components that end up feeding into an individual's mental illness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What I'd like to do right now is I'd like to kind of get the definitions and sort of like the structure of all of the most general mental disorders and cognitive illnesses out there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You mind if I do that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Types of mental illnesses. There are
some more facts out there.
Yep. There are many different conditions that are recognized as mental illness. The more common types include anxiety disorder. People with anxiety disorder respond to certain objects or situations with fear and dread, as well as the physical signs of anxiety or panic, such as a rapid heartbeat and sweating. An anxiety disorder is diagnosed if the person's response is not appropriate for the situation. If the person cannot control the response, or if the anxiety interferes with normal functioning, anxiety disorders include generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, social anxiety disorder, which I believe you fall under, and specific phobias. Now, if anyone's ever seen the movie Monk, okay, those definitely fall under some of these. Okay, he has definitely the social anxiety. He's got all these different anxieties.
The biggest one that he has is OCD,
which comes down the list.
That's the most highlighted in the entire series.
Exactly. Now the next one that's listed, and this you can find on WebMD, which I think is a great source for any type of illness or any interest in anatomy or any concerns about anything. Go to WebMD.
Now, before David continues, I just want to say, I know that there's a lot of criticism out there for WebMD, especially with their symptom tracker, like I was just discussing to David. But basically, they're not wrong with that symptom tracker. You put in your symptoms, and
it gives you all these different varieties.
They're basically just telling you every single thing that you could possibly have. It's not it's basically not like saying that hey, you have all 20 of these. Yeah. It's basically just saying, hey, these are all the things that you could possibly have.
This matches with your problem.
Yeah, these are all the symptoms that could match with your problem, but go to a doctor for further analysis.
Correct.
That's pretty much the only reason as to why one of the reasons why WebMD is frowned upon is just because they list so many symptoms for the symptom tracker or whatever.
See, I've never heard anyone frowning until I met you. I'm sorry. Okay. Are we good?
It's even made fun of in movies. But
I know.
Yeah. All right. Yep.
Bad movies. All right. The next thing on the list is mood disorders. Now, this one I can relate to, being bipolar. Okay. These disorders, also called affective disorders, involve persistent feeling of sadness or periods of feeling overly happy, or fluctuations from extreme happiness to extreme sadness. The most common mood disorders are depression, bipolar disorder, and I have a hard time with this word, and cyclothymic.
Where?
Cyclothymic disorder. So, I mean, I would love to share. Cyclothymic is very similar to bipolar itself, okay? And it basically deals where it's not as apparent. Let's say a manic episode is very extreme. Cyclothymic falls to the less extreme, but still very parallel to a manic disorder, okay? So it's in between, in the gray areas, okay? And as I said, I mean, I've lived it. Anyone that's been out there who's had an actual episode. And the thing is once you have a manic episode, your chances is You're also going to have a depression episode, and that's where a lot of suicide happens. Okay, in that moment, you're contemplating all about the mortality that you're going through, and I've thought about taking a gun up to my head, and my wife had to hide the weapon when I was going through that. So yeah, this is how serious this can be.
Due to legal reasons, we're not going to talk much about suicide because we can't really.
But that's where a lot of it happens.
Well, right. Yeah.
A lot of soldiers, especially, it's kind of a fresh memory for a lot of people who've been around for a while. And, Iraq and Afghanistan happened. A lot of soldiers were coming back, and a lot of them were diagnosed with PTSD, and then, of course, accompanied with depression and bipolar.
Exactly.
Okay, so the next one is psychotic disorders. Now, when we think of psychosis or psychotic, we often see, these people raging with weapons and killing people, right? From movies and stuff, Psychotic disorders involve distorted awareness and thinking. Two of the most common symptoms of psychotic disorders are hallucinations, the experience of images or sound that are not real, such as hearing voices, and delusions, which are false fixed beliefs that the ill person accepts as truth, despite evidence to the contrary. Schizophrenia is an example of a psychotic disorder. Now, schizophrenia, also called split personality disorder?
No, I don't think that is also called split personality. I think that split personality disorder is literally its own. I don't think that it's related to schizophrenia.
Hang on. Schizophrenia symptoms include distorted thoughts, hallucination, and feeling of fright and paranoia.
It might be similar to schizophrenia. But
actually, I think you're right.
It's definitely not under the same exact.
You are correct. I stand corrected. It's more of, it's almost like a bundle of being delusional and paranoid, and So no, it's not. It's not a split personality. So I was wrong about that.
They're two different disorders.
Yep. Okay, so it's funny. What disorders? Okay, so here's the thing that really, really is interesting. The next disorder is actually called eating disorders. Okay, now in a nation that has been fighting obesity for how many years, there are serious issues and disorders that are coming out of that. Okay. And eating disorders involve extreme emotion, attitudes, and behaviors involving weight and food. Anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating disorders are most common eating disorders. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, the thing about that is,
it's basically where a girl is afraid of,
Well, it's not only girls. We want to make sure.
Guys.
Yeah, I've met men who have these problems, and often. I've met them when they were already recuperated.
My mind automatically just went to women just because
it's a common
society,
conception.
It's women who are more afraid of gaining weight than men. So
you'd think.
So you'd think that's true. That's true.
And again, often we tend to discriminate,
mm-hmm.
and that's a form of discrimination that you just said, where we assume one thing when.
My apologies.
No, and it's fine. It's not a big deal. You weren't aware of it, but. I've met quite a few men who've dealt with it because they were shamed of when they were younger, okay? So they stopped eating, and then, like me, I'm an emotional eater. And I gained weight because of it, because I was so depressed all these years, and food made me feel better. So I'm on the other end of the spectrum, you know what I mean? Impulse control addiction disorder. Now this is the one where we talked about.
Before he quickly says that, when our website goes up, there's a little study I want to do, because I believe that quite a giant majority of the population has a mental disorder.
What's the study about? A questionnaire type thing?
Like a poll on
our website. You think people would actually do that?
I want people to go on our website and select whether or not they think they have a mental disorder if they know. And I want to see what the ratio is between people who actually know or think they have it and people who don't have it or don't think they have it.
What's the end game on this?
I don't know. I just want to see the ratio. That's really it.
Yeah, I mean, based on our current popularity. We may not have that many ratios here.
Well, we'll do it some point down the road.
Hopefully. Okay, and that's something we can talk about in the future.
I just want to do a quick study. I just want to see if I can figure out any ratios there,
Okay.
Because it just seems like mental disorders becoming more... I mean, back then, mental disorders were thought of as, like, you're crazy and, like, shock therapy and all this stuff.
Oh, yeah. It was horrible how they treated people with mental disabilities.
Yeah, and now it's becoming more of a norm because more and more people have them. And I just want to, because I just want to see the ratio, basically.
Okay, well, hopefully we can do that in the future.
Yep.
All right, the next one I'd like to discuss is impulsive control and addiction disorder. People with impulse control disorders are unable to resist urges or impulses to perform acts that could be harmful to themselves or others. Pyromania, starting fires, kleptomania, stealing, and compulsive gambling are examples of impulse control disorders. Alcohol and drugs are common objects of addiction. Often people with these disorders become so involved with the objects of their addiction that they begin to ignore responsibilities and relationships. Mm-hmm. So it's a big deal. I believe a large portion of, or at least a fairly large portion of our population is actually dealing with this.
Oh yeah.
But here's the thing, and Josh and I talked about this. There's a thing about taking control of your life, if you can, or you're responsible for whatever act you do. Whether you have a disorder or not, legally, that's not an excuse.
Exactly,
okay?
And that's what sucks.
Well, no, not really, because we're still accountable for what we do.
Well, yeah, we're still accountable. However, I have an explanation in my head, but I don't know how to say it. So,
well, I'll say it. Sometimes getting in trouble will save your life. Okay, because then, for instance,
it's not really what I was thinking.
No, but I'm telling you, often people who have these disorders don't get help until they're at the lowest point in their lives, or they've been caught for a crime that they just couldn't control. Okay?
Right, exactly. And it's unfortunate.
And sometimes they can get the help they need.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
because some people are able to fight it in their head to be able to actually think like, okay, I gotta go and get help for this. And some people just don't have that ability, and they continue living life with this. But I mean, even though people will not understand what exactly you're going through unless they have the same thing, you still can definitely probably receive treatment for it. That's
Okay. I got you, buddy. I got you. I think if people are just empathetic, you don't have to go overly overboard and feel sorry for the individual. But I mean, just try to walk in their shoes, see how they feel, and try. If you're not suffering from anything, God bless you. You're one of the luckiest people on the planet. Okay. Mm-hmm. But if you have any empathy towards a human being that's suffering, sometimes hurting himself and others around him because he can't control it, give him a little empathy, and hopefully guide that individual to get help.
And please know that I'm not saying you need to have empathy for like serial killers and these people that commit like these mass murders all over the country or anything like that.
Well, actually,
you don't. I mean,
actually, you should give them some empathy because it'll help you maybe understand why they are the way they are. Certain people don't have a conscience. It's just the way it is. Okay? I have a theory, and that can be discussed in a different show, regarding why there are serial killers in the first place. Okay? Mm-hmm. But a person who is going through a lot, maybe for no reason at all, they hurt someone else, there's always a root to their behavior. Okay? And empathy can at least make you see past your own hate for that individual.
And if you've ever watched Criminal Minds, this is literally what basically they do. There's a term for a person for Criminal Minds, it's called a profiler.
A profiler, yeah.
And they are people who study extensively and are trained very highly to be able to get into the mind of a serial killer and these mentally unstable criminals or these criminals or whatever, and they have to get into their mind and kind of put themselves in their shoes in order to catch them.
Correct.
And I mean, that's I just wanted to say that they.
Well, a profiler, he studies patterns and past. They often relate their own knowledge on past type of serial killers or patterns of people who have been conducting almost the same type of pattern.
Exactly.
Okay? I mean, we could go on about this for hours. Let me get to the next subject right here. The next subject is personality disorders. Now, that's where you corrected me, and you were correct. People with personality disorders have extreme and inflexible personality traits that are distressing to the person and or cause problems in work, school, or social relationships. In addition, the person's patterns of thinking and behavior significantly differ from the expectations of society and are so rigid that they interfere with the person's normal functioning. Examples include antisocial personality disorder, obsessive compulsive personality disorder, and paranoid personality disorders.
And
Monk.
And it's like you were saying when you actually got here to the studio. You were saying that you said I'm surprised at how much mental disorders there are. I looked them up, and there's like 430 or so of them. Yep. And basically, what you're naming off there's all these different categories with tons, like 50 to 100 different mental disorders in that category.
What I liked about this particular page, because I was studying all kinds of stuff, and I got frustrated while I was reading because there is so much information and so many different, as we said, 420 by the way.
Oh, 420.
Okay. 420 different types of mental illness and disorders, and it kind of put them together. I went from A and never left A. Took me an hour to just read through A.
Wow.
So I'm like, no. I got to find something that's a little simpler for the show. And therefore, after the personality disorder, we're going to go to obsessive compulsive disorder, also known as OCD.
Yep.
The famous initials. People with OCD are plagued by constant thought of fear that causes them to perform certain rituals or routines. The disturbing thoughts are called obsessions, and the rituals are called compulsions. An example is a person with an unreasonable fear of germs who constantly washes his or her hands. Sorry. Yeah, I know. I have a parent that's like that, and if you veer from anything,
I'm like a little like that.
I think all of us are a little OCD, especially like if you're a clean freak. Okay?
You know how often I wash my hands.
Yeah. My wife's the same way, but she's in an industry where she can really catch a lot of germs, and illnesses.
Yeah, because remember that one time I told you that I had that dream where I was in this like sand pit and I got stuck in it, and you remember that?
Yes, I do. Actually.
And I was like consumed in that sand pit, and I couldn't get out, and then ever since that dream, I've been completely afraid of toxins and stuff like that. And anytime I touch something that I think could hurt me, I wash my hands.
And it's probably not a bad idea.
Well, exactly.
But this OCD actually talks about more of a ritualistic, where you have to do it a certain way. And they'll do it 6 times over.
Yeah.
Okay, before they leave the house, they turn off all the lights. Unplug the coffee machine. They'll do it 6 times over again because they don't trust that it's been unplugged. And a lot of people are afraid of fire. Okay, so I'm just telling you. And they would relock the door 10 times just to make sure it's properly locked. That's a ritual.
Like people who get to work and are like, oh crap! Did I turn my oven off? Is my stove off?
So but that's not
yeah.
OCD.
So they have to.
That's a concern.
Oh,
it's a little different. OCD is if you you're completely saturated with the thought over and over again, and you literally would leave everything you're doing at that time and drive 20 miles home, and find the oven completely off. You know
right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or the iron on. Listen, my wife was driving one day, and we were 20 miles or so out, and she's like, "Oh my God, did I do this? This was the first time she ever did that." We drove home, and she was right. The iron was on. So I mean, that's not OCD.
Like that feeling where like you leave for vacation or you're leaving for somewhere, and they're like, "I feel like I forgot something."
Exactly.
Everybody has that.
You're right. Let me finish this off because we only have like one more area, and
Should
then
we do part 2 on this after you're done.
No,
I mean
no.
not tonight, but
no. I think we'll be fine if I get this done.
Okay.
All right. The last one of the WebMD categories for mental illness and disorders is post-traumatic stress disorder, now, or also known as PTSD. Now, it is one of my disorders I have, so I really, really take this personal, and I'm not upset about it. I'm just kidding. Let's talk about this real quick. PTSD is a condition that can develop following a traumatic and or terrifying event, such as sexual or physical assault, the unexpected death of a loved one, or a natural disaster. People with PTSD often have lasting and frightening thoughts and memories of the event and tend to be emotionally numb. Now, I'd like to elaborate on this real quick. There's a lot more going on with PTSD than this says, okay? And I think it's the most abbreviated section there is. Let me see. Other less common... Oh, geez, there's more. I take it back, there's more. Other less common types of mental illnesses include stress response syndrome, formerly called adjustment disorder, which the individual... let me see. Stress response syndrome occurs when a person develops emotional or behavioral symptoms in response to a stressful event or situation. The stressors may include natural disasters, such as an earthquake or tornado, events of crisis, such as a car accident or the diagnosis of a major illness, or interpersonal problems, such as a divorce, death of a loved one, loss of a job, or a problem with substance abuse. Stress response syndrome usually begins within 3 months of the event or situation and ends with 6 months after the stressor stops or is eliminated. So it's almost similar to PTSD, but it's not as long lasting. Dissociative disorder. I'm sorry, people. People with disorders suffer severe disturbances or changes in memory, consciousness, identity, and general awareness of themselves and their surrounding. So basically, they're not attached anymore. They're like disassociated from their identity and from things in the past. Often that's caused by head injuries, okay, or certain emotional traumas, traumatic events, and accidents or disasters that may be experienced or witnessed by the individual. Now, here's the thing. People with PTSD sometimes have this, especially if they're in the arena of war, where the moment there was an explosion or their best friend was killed or a member of their team was murdered, and all of a sudden, some people have reported that it's almost like an out-of-body experience, okay? They're completely not there. They're completely numb, and even sometimes sounds are not the same. We're definitely... We're going to have to do part 2. Because we're at the end here. And okay, so dissociative disorders was the last one I discussed.
All right. So...
Hang on.
Okay.
Dissociative identity disorder, formerly called multiple personality disorder or split personality disorder, and depersonalization disorder are examples of dissociative disorders. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
A lot of info.
So that people can understand what you're saying, we'll hold everything else off until part 2, so that you don't have to speak so freaking fast and be so under pressure.
I got you. It's another disorder I have.
So yeah. So thank you guys for listening tonight. And we will be back next week with the another mental disorders part 2 episode.
Gotcha.
Awesome. Thanks for listening.
God bless.